right. So we both worked in the same hotel as food and beverage attendants.
2008.
Good. 2008. So we were both in the food and beverage team, but I worked the breakfast morning shift in the restaurant, and Stan worked the evening banquet shifts. So we had, a different friend circle and knew of each other, but
Different
we weren't
lives.
friends. Like, we didn't hang out together or anything. And
So I was banquet staff, and restaurant staff didn't associate with banquet staff.
No, it was a bit like taboo, we don't talk to you guys. So we knew of each other but didn't hang out. And Stan went off and did some traveling, and I went life my way. And it was probably a few years after, like 2 or 3 years after, we just happened to
end of 2012 when I got back from London.
Yeah, and we just crossed paths again, like just by complete surprise. We crossed paths, and this time we were working in the same hotel again, but in a more sort of close proximity. We're both in the same department. And from there, I guess we sort of
just hung out more,
got to know each other more, and developed a bit of a friendship. And then we sort of dated a little bit, but at the same time, we're both at different stages of life. We're on different wavelengths with what we wanted. Like, we're both going different directions. I had a whole lot of to-dos I needed to tick off my list. Like, I was yet to go traveling, and there was aspirations to complete. And so we dated a bit, but then we both sort of parted ways. Stan moved to Sydney, I moved to London, went and did some traveling myself. And we kept in touch. Like, we always kept in touch over those 18 months to 2 years. And you came to visit me in London at one point. And we stayed really, really close. And then I moved back to Australia, and
2016.
2016. That's sort of when we officially decided to become a couple, and we sort of kicked it off from there. And we've sort of done life ever since. So what's that? We're 5 and a bit years we've been together. So stuck with me now.
Cool.
More to
I
come.
love that you remember the years. It's all.
Yeah. Do you like how he interjected with all the years, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
no.
I remember all the years.
So your guys' relationship in general started off within a sort of working environment anyway. Did you always know that you wanted to run your own businesses separately ever in your life? Was that a goal for you?
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did that take convincing on your part, Stan, to clear, or was it more so just that it was something that fell into place when it happened?
Yeah, look, it's been a funny ride. At the stage where we decided to start a business was we were both over what we were currently doing. So we'd both had our careers and done really well, and Claire was 100% over events and wasn't enjoying it anymore. I loved my job, but what I hated was I worked just as hard as I do now for someone else, and I treated every role like it was my own business, and I always went over and above and beyond for those roles, but I constantly would get pulled back down because nothing was ever good enough for the owner of those hotels or whatever it was.
You never reaped the benefits of your efforts, and you had no control.
And so I decided that I needed to do something for myself, and I always was going to. I always had that entrepreneurial sort of spirit, but I never knew what it was that I wanted to do. And so the catalyst was that we were in India, and on the first holiday we've been in 2.5 years, and then my owners in my hotel kept sending these emails, just pretty much, where the hell is Stan? Why isn't he here doing what he's supposed to do? Right? Wouldn't let me relax. And that was the catalyst for us going, screw it, let's do something else. This isn't working. And then pretty much the next day, my brother sent an email saying he's starting up his own business, and if any of us wanted to work with him and start our own business underneath them, then have a chat.
It's amazing, what happens when you sort of put out into the world, okay, I'm done, I'm ready for something new, and then just the doors that naturally open when you actually sort of look for them.
You can see
your
them.
eyes to it. Yeah, you can actually see them when you decide to.
So yeah, so that sort of, so it wasn't really, so even though Claire never wanted to own her own business or never really had that entrepreneurial sort of dream, the timing was all perfect. That for Mai to convince her was just like, she was super excited.
I was open ears to something new. So, and I think also just really keen to experience some discomfort. Like that's where I was in my career. Like I'd done events for over a decade and I'd worn every hat in the industry, and I was just ready for like just a shake up and just ready to take a risk and ready to experience the uncomfortable, you know, the discomfort and just do something crazy. So it was keen. Yeah, I was keen to jump on board.
Almost more like a lifestyle change rather than wanting to do it for the business at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You had a lot of like, we both were watching a lot of YouTube at that point. We'd really started watching and following actual people on YouTube rather than just watching random cat videos. And so like we had people like Cara and Nate, and we had Matt Does Fitness, and who are some of the other ones that you watch? Just people, right?
Along with all the entrepreneurs.
And stuff who were
Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, even a bit of Tony Robbins at that point. Like just all the psych up motivational seed planting, like.
Well, we realized that like we could create a life with today's technology, that we weren't stuck in one place, and we could go on a journey. We could go on a journey together and do whatever we wanted, and that we could fund it through the modern world, which is nothing we had ever thought of possible before. And so that's what excited Claire, because she was going on an adventure, which is what she loves.
I love adventures.
And I got to do business.
So it's a perfect balance. Cool. And so obviously that's the early days. So from having the business now, have you guys discovered anything new about each other, running it together as a partnership?
Yeah.
What are some of those things that stand out?
Can I not anymore? Like, I think I hurt my neck. So much. Like it's such a like self-discovery journey, like running a business, because you really do. You learn so much about yourself along with each other simultaneously, and because you get pushed to that limit where you can't hide it. But we've learnt each other's strengths and where each other like sort of likes to play. Like I've always looked at work as quite a draining like chore, you know. I've never really fully, work's never got me out of bed, whereas for Stan, he lives and breathes it. Like he cannot wait to get out of bed in the morning to do business. Like whereas I'm just like but like now I fully respect that, and I love how he loves that. Whereas like to reverse those roles, like I love organizing the house. I love cooking dinner every night. Like I will quite happily clean the bathroom, and he thinks that that's like just like the worst thing in the world to do. So we complement each other perfectly in that. Like but now we both understand that about each other, that, you know, because he always tried to take that away from me. He's always like, no, don't do that. Like we'll just get a cleaner, and like that was an insult to me, because I was like, you're taking away something that I love. Like that's like I love the achievement of, you know, productively cleaning a house or getting dinner ready or planning out the week and all of that. So just little things like that. But
yeah, I felt like it made me feel bad because I wasn't helping doing the domestic sort of work, right? Like that's not something I wanted to do. I hate cleaning and cooking, and I don't like want any of that responsibility. I just wanted to outsource. It was another thing I could outsource, and like I treated it like a part of one of the to-dos for work, and I needed to outsource that task.
But in the same breath, I felt bad that I wasn't like putting in equal effort to the business either, because you are doing so much.
And so we had to come to grips that actually we're doing each other a favor by not taking that work away from each other and just letting each other be when they're doing that. That we're both in our happy place doing that thing. But that was hard. That was only quite recent, like this year, that we really figured that out.
Yeah.
As well, right? Like you live together, you do business together, working from home, and it takes time to get to that place without like being at breaking point, always looking up your eyes and feeling guilty and feeling like you're not contributing in the house and the business. And I think it's like great that you guys have been, on this journey for what, 2 years now, just over 2 years, and you're okay to be like, it took us this long to get into this rhythm and into this pattern. It takes ages, right? Like it take a long.
Oh yeah.
I think it's been accelerated by lockdowns. That certainly hurries up the process a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's been like at first when we started this business and this journey, we had like, well, especially me, I know for myself that I had like these idealistic views of how things were going to be, and I was super excited by it and all energized and amped up, and I failed to realize that Claire was there with me. Like she wasn't there with me, I should say. And so that I couldn't see that she wasn't there. And then because I couldn't see that she wasn't there when she was doing the other stuff, I was like, why are you doing that? Like, why aren't we doing this? Like, come on, like you're wasting time. And it took ages for it to come to a point where Claire was like, no, like I don't enjoy going and working events and talking to random people and doing all this stupid crap, writing content. I enjoy doing this sort of stuff. And we didn't get into business to do things we don't enjoy. We got into business to do what we want when we want.
That's the whole point.
That was the whole point of doing this. She doesn't need another boss telling her, hey, this is what we need to do. We got into this for that reason. So once we figured that out, and it did take us a bit of time, but I think it couldn't have been any faster. We had to have made those mistakes to really know them now.
And we had to figure those things out for ourselves personally as well, like just going through that journey. So
I can imagine it would be quite strange as well as, you know, in your relationship you felt like you knew each other from this separate sort of realm, like you both already had your own things going on, and now that it's the one thing, and obviously that's another thing popped up, like you said, Claire, that you didn't know about yourself anyway, and so that's learning about it together as well. We had a question for you, Claire, based on Stan's inventive personality that Krupa wrote down, and she said, how do you do you have any coping mechanisms for when it comes to dealing with Stan's inventive personality?
oh gosh, I mean,
like, how much time do we have?
So again, it's been a learning experience. It's taken time, but I think the biggest thing I've learned is just to listen. Like Stanley often uses me as a sounding board, just to riff on all the stuff that's going on in his head. And a lot of the time, the things that come out of his mouth are like literally being thought of as he's speaking them. So he hasn't, like me, for example, I'll let something run in my head for weeks before it comes out of my mouth. But Stan thinks out loud, and at the beginning, I was always trying to solve his problems or have an answer for everything that he asked, and just been trying to figure out the how. That's always just where my brain goes, trying to figure out the how. So I would always be challenging every single one of his ideas, which, you know, for an inventive personality, that's kind of an insult that he doesn't like, that doesn't go down too well. But the more I learn about myself, the more I learn about personality types in general, and how we both like play off each other. Now I understand that he's just thinking out loud, and all I need to do is just listen and, you know, add in the and that's interesting, and yeah, great, like, you know, every now and then, so he knows I'm listening. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I've learned.
Yeah.
And how to deal with it.
I agree, and I think that like I've learned that about myself too, that I'm able to tell that to other people. Like when I say stuff out loud and I have these crazy ideas, you can just come back and say to me later on, yeah, cool, had a look at it, we're not going to do that, we're going to do this, or we're not going to do anything, and that's fine. And that, like, there's a lot of people in life who go around going, oh, I've got all these great ideas, but actually you don't. And I used to think that too, and I've got heaps of ideas, but most of them are crap. They're just ideas, that's all they are. And until they're executed and done well, they're nothing but an idea. And I think Claire's taught me from dealing with me this way that, okay, great, so the stuff coming out of my mouth, it's okay to let it go. The saying it out loud is allowing it to get out of my head so new ideas can form. And then that's okay, that's all I need it for. And then the ones that are good will keep coming out. They'll keep coming back. And
on the reverse end of the scale, I'm one to internalize everything. I usually keep everything in my head, and I don't speak much at all until I know I've got a final product, and then I'll, you know, release it into the universe. But then if it's wrong, like I get really like down or insulted if it doesn't play out how I want it to. So I've taken a little bit of Stanley's book to just sort of, riff off a few ideas a bit more and really just workshop things and be okay if something's not the final product. Like, so we've sort of taken a bit of balance from each other in that regard.
It's that great example of a sounding board, Claire, that you said a while ago about needing to rant. Like, I'm just ranting right now. I don't need you to fix it, compared to when it's actually that conversation.
Yeah.
That definitely stuck with me when we talked about that.
Yeah, we use that a lot.
When talking about, yeah. What am I going? So when talking about like these big decisions, can you remember the initial conversation about moving back to New Zealand and sort of the lead up and the thought process behind that and how you guys navigated it?
Yeah, it was that story you said before about India, but it kept building over time. So we were on holiday and we had about another 2 weeks left of our holiday. We got back from overseas, and at the time I had started making YouTube videos. I wasn't any good at it. I used it to like just learn, and I did one because 2 weeks prior to that decision or that email, I had I had my first drink after 12 months. So I gave up alcohol in all of 2018, and that January of 2019 we were on holiday. It was the first time I had drunk for 12 months, and so I had done a few videos on not drinking and doing other sort of stuff, and I was just trying to experiment and building an audience and whatnot. And so to that point of like understanding there was another world we could make money in, that all started to formulate and going, fuck, we could actually do this if we did this properly. We just didn't know what the product or the service was that we were going to sell. But that decision happened slowly for a few months. We knew it was going to happen, but in terms of like what the exact layout of what that looked like really didn't happen until we arrived in New Zealand. But we had pretty much set our heart on saying we're going in February 2019. And then we had a bunch of obstacles to overcome to get from there to being here in October. One of them was booking the tickets. We just booked them and said, look, we've got a date.
We knew that we could work back from that.
Claire had a big bonus due, so we had to make sure we were here for that. That was in September, so that was a reason for October. We needed money.
Yeah, we both had our own goals within our current jobs as well, professionally, that we wanted to achieve, and then it was financial goals to make happen what we wanted, and then I guess it's just reverse engineering that. Once you make a decision, it's amazing how the tide just turns. You just make it happen.
So the decision was made in mid-Jan that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
Then there was a bunch of little decisions, and I think that's like a real important point, that like big massive moments in life don't happen in sliding doors. Like you can look back at them like that, and we do. We often think of sliding door moments, but they don't actually happen like that. A door doesn't close and another one opens that way in its entirety. You have to walk through that door and take the path, and then the story starts to unfold the further you walk through that door. And that's something that's like really important to push through, because a lot of people like go, oh, I'm going to go start a business, and then they'll start it and they're like, oh, why isn't anyone buying my product? And it's like, because you just started. You just walked through the door. You're not even at the letterbox yet. That's a real big important. Our story started in January, but we arrived in October and we still didn't even know what the business was.
Plus, we told each other that we'd give it 2 years before we expected to really get a return. Really.
We gave ourselves 2 years to make $1.
Yeah.
And it's only just turned over 2 years now. That was our goal. Our goal was like, in 2 years we need to make $1, and then we succeeded. Yeah.
Which was good, because it took away a lot of the pressure, which forces you to make some dumb decisions and some hurried, things. So that was good. We're really glad that we gave it that approach. We didn't rush into anything. We just decided, let's back ourselves for 2 years, give it a shot, and
do the actions needed to get the results. Yeah.
And I guess, like, how long after October did you realize that you wanted to start a company, or that had anything to do with LinkedIn?
Oh, it was the summer.
Anything like that?
It was that summer, so I spent 3 months networking, and it was at that point in the summer that people kept asking me for help with LinkedIn. Everyone I kept meeting. And so over the summer we had some time because New Zealand decides to take 10 weeks off over the summer and do nothing. And so we weren't used to that, especially working in hospo where summer's busy.
Sweet.
And so I spent that time making a full-on course on how to teach people what I knew on LinkedIn. And what was funny is that like coming out of summer and into like February, March, I started to realize like that's not at all what I want to do. Like I don't want to teach. I don't want to be a coach of stuff. And we started to then think, okay, well, this product we're creating, can I actually execute it for people? Is that a better thing? So yeah, look, it took a few months to figure out LinkedIn was a thing, but I also didn't know what value I actually could offer. I knew I could do heaps of stuff because I'd run all these hotels successfully. I knew I had a lot to offer, but I didn't know what the market wanted to pay me for.
And neither of you had experience in marketing before The Attention Seeker, did you? Yeah.
Not formally and not as a role, but I mean, I think everyone has experience in marketing. I think just they don't really know it. Like applying for a job is a marketing activity. So I understood the human behavior side of marketing, but I didn't understand marketing principles, and I still don't. I still don't get it. Like I still watch and read stuff and I'm like, who gives a fuck about that? Like that, why would you think about that if you were trying to apply? Like, like I'm more execution focused, but I know that that's not the only way to think now. Like I do know now that strategy and understanding marketing principles is important. I just don't know them.
Yeah. And we've got the age-old golden question. Where did the name The Attention Seeker come from? Because I don't know. Krupa was telling me before she knows.
Yeah.
That's probably because at that same time, watching all those. I mean, geez, we watch a lot of YouTube, but like listening to Gary Vee and the like, and there was just a lot of talk at that time about the attention economy and how that's sort of the way the world is going. Whoever can grasp the most attention wins. So those words, I guess, were in the air, and then
we wanted to help people find more attention, and one of the big thing was about undervalued attention. That something Gary Vee would always say is that I want to find undervalued or underpriced attention, so I want to find it as cheap as possible. And LinkedIn was one of those places, and still is one of those places where attention is very cheap to get or to buy. And so attention was definitely one of the words. And
but we drilled it down to four different.
Well, for the product that we were going to make, so
it's like the attention engine, the attention project, the attention seeker, and
the attention hack.
The attention hack. And so we pretty much put it to a vote to like our close sort of friend circle, and 12,
15 people or so.
Yeah.
We did a preferential voting sort of system where everyone ranked them in order.
Yeah.
Because what we didn't want to do is, I didn't want a name that was one as a minority. Like I didn't want to ask 12 people and 4 of them chose one of them, and then the other 8 were divided up by the other 3, right? So that meant the majority didn't want the one that won. And so we did a preferential voting system so that they were ranked and then they all scored points. Anyway, it turned out Attention Seeker was a clear winner. And it's made us start to realize that it was a clear winner because it's an actual phrase and people knew it, and so they associated to it and they understood it and recognized it.
Yeah, we love it now. Yeah.
And then that was for the product, right? Like we had this like LinkedIn coaching thing that we were going to do, and it wasn't until lockdown happened and I started to realize I can't do it as a coaching thing, I need to do this as an execution, that I started talking to Rosie about it. And Rosie one day just like pretty much stopped me mid-sentence and was just like, why the hell is this not your company name? Like why are you calling this product? Like this is all you do, like this should just be your name. Like your actual company name is terrible. And I agreed. Like I realized that like what we had tried to do with our original company name, which is still our limited liability name now, which is Wallace and Henry House. The reason we chose that is actually it was the idea behind it wasn't more of a holding company. It was meant to be the house of all our other companies. And so it was a terrible name for the service that we were about to embark on. And so, yeah, she told me one day, like a Friday after BNI or something like that in lockdown, that weekend I built a website, changed everything over, created a logo, and on Monday I was the attention seeker. And it was a bit, it was Stan, so like it happened that fast. And yeah, that was it. We stuck with it ever since, and we love it. Like, it's going to one of those things. Like, I couldn't believe the attentionseeker.com was still available. Like that. No one had ever done anything with that name. It seemed, and then once I tell everyone, everyone's response is always like, "Such a great name! Like, how did you get that name?" But yeah, it's just that's kind of how it all came about. So Rosie had a lot to play there. Like, and I still give her a lot of credit there because it wasn't a company name yet. No. Not at all. It wasn't a company name at all. Our email addresses weren't even the attentionseeker.com. They were WallaceandHenryhouse.com, right? They were just these stupid email addresses that just didn't work and branded really badly.
I was just going to say, do you think that all in all, the lockdowns had a positive effect on your business as well? Or if you could do it again, rather not, that hiring process?
It was born in lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Our company was born.
The business was born in a lockdown, so.
That's right.
It's where it feels most comfortable. Given that we grew this business out of the first original lockdown, really, let's be honest, that was when it really started. That is our base level. That's our stationary point, I suppose. So when we're out of lockdowns, that's a bonus. Business can do so much more and other things. But the lockdown is a place where we feel comfortable because that's where we grew it from, right? And every time we've hired a staff member, another lockdown's happened. We hired, we hired my dad when your dad first worked for us in the beginning of the first lockdown. Alicia booked her tickets, and by the time she arrived, we were all in lockdown. So she spent her quarantine in lockdown the same as we did. Krupa, weekend in lockdown. Olivia was Olivia was the only one who technically there was no lockdown around her. And then Sian and Krupa, we hired you lockdown. So I don't know if I would say it's been positive, but it's what we know. It's our comfort.
But it always pushes us to try, like the amount of innovative ideas that we've always forced to come up with.
Yeah, it's been I don't think our business would be where it is without lockdowns. I don't think we wouldn't have one, or a good one, but it would be a different business. We would have learned different things. There's no way to try and think where we could have been because business has changed so much. So I don't know if the positive or negative emotion is really attached to it, but it's where we feel comfortable. I'm not fazed by it. The fact that we have a lockdown doesn't scare me. It just makes me have to rethink what we need to do.
Pretty conditioned to being adaptable now. So it's probably good. It's a good in that regard to take the silver lining out of it. But
yeah, I kind of think that's me in a nutshell in my life. When you come from a place of difficulty or struggle, and you can grow out of that, right? I always think of like the Tupac book, The Rose That Grew from Stone, right? That concept of that poem, that's us, right? That's me and my brothers. We're all from Manarewa, from South Auckland. We all got out of that place, we've grown into these careers and lives that we had. And throughout my whole career has been a bunch of adversity and, crap that, a lot of it's my own doing or whatever, but you're able to build something off of that platform of, adversity. And I think that because of that history, I feel comfortable in this place. It doesn't scare me. In fact, it just makes me realize that everyone else isn't going to do the things I'm going to do when this stuff happens. So it gives me an opportunity to leapfrog and win.
I think this is something I can relate to 100%, but have you guys had any, guilty pleasures in lockdown? I know, Stan, you've had a couple of parcels turn up, and we don't know how many.
A couple. How many pairs of shoes have you bought during this lockdown?
I bought a number of shoes. I bought, enough enough for each foot. Look, we've I bought a lot of shoes. I bought 8 pairs of shoes. Claire's bought a lot of active wear and bikinis and
active
shoes.
wear and shoes as well. But
Yeah.
mainly retail therapy. The first week we ate our feelings, like I think everyone did. There was lots of potato crisps and chocolate, but got that out of our system. We started intermittent fasting so we could get ourselves in credit for the lack of exercise that we're doing and still not doing. And then retail therapy, just online shopping, just to get that hit, something exciting to turn up.
Yeah, like when we first moved here, we couldn't
do a lot.
We couldn't do a lot, right? Like every dollar had to go back into the business, and it's only really now that we're at a position where our salary we pay ourselves. We can have some fun and we can enjoy some of the fruits of our labor and buy things that we want. And I probably bought a bit of tech in the past that probably didn't need, but it is definitely. I mean, like right now in this video, we've got most of it here being used right now, and that's for these moments that we're able to do it, right?
You love these moments because it justifies.
It justifies the process.
Yeah.
And you know what? What's real funny is.
You're using the gear, you're wearing the shoes. It's fine.
And so the guilty pleasures of the shoes. Shoes are definitely something I do not need as many as I have. It's everyone knows me for this black tee and these black jeans, but jackets and coats and shoes are my guilty pleasures. My accessory items are my thing, right? Like that's how I jazz up what I wear. And shoes are a big part of that, and I've always loved shoes. I've always had. Like I used to have more shoes. I gave away a lot of them away when I moved here. I just threw them away. But too many shoes.
Have you seen that TED talk about investing in yourself, but as in yourself?
No.
And it's just 30 minutes of justifying that you should buy that outfit that you wanted because it's going to give you a better vibe overall and all that sort of thing.
I agree with that. I haven't seen it, but I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And I use it a lot to justify me to buy Claire stuff.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with, but it's just usually the extra push I know that I need. If you get that dress, you're gonna feel really good, and it's just you're gonna hold yourself higher. You're gonna be so much more confident. Just get it. Just get it.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where okay, say for instance, Claire's going to play golf and stuff. If she feels good going out to play golf, she'll feel more confident.
And I'll play better.
She'll play better. And it really is a thing. You don't need clothes to make you feel better, but they can help you feel better, which then in turn improves your mood and improves everything, which then makes your outward appearance reflect the inward person that's inside. I think that's a real big thing. And look, other people have their opinion, but I'm a big believer in that. I personally wear black all the time because I'm lazy, not because of a fashion choice. When I was in hotels, I wore white shirts and suits. I had 3 suits I rotated, and I had white shirts, and I did it because I was lazy. The only reason I don't wear a shirt now is because I don't want to iron. And
it helps with the decision fatigue and willpower at stores and all those things that you can direct the energy elsewhere. So it's perfect for you.
Yeah, but shoes are good. I love. I think of when I buy shoes, I think of them like collecting. So I'm real big on collecting stuff, and I like the exclusivity that certain shoes have, right? If I can ever get my hands on a pair of 85 Jordan Breads, no one has those, right? They're 12 to, they cost thousands to buy a pair of those resale.
I'm just gonna put it up here, plug in. If anyone watching this video has these,
Yeah, trying to network his way into
Yeah. Exactly. 100%. Oh, I love that sort of stuff. I always collect these sorts of things. I like that thought of collecting. I used to do it with watches. I used to have heaps of watches. So anyway, that's my guilty pleasure.
Cool. And so I suppose just rounding it up, it's going back a little bit to the Claire and Stan pillar that I think it's something that a lot of people will find value in this question. And it's, do you have any advice for people who are wanting to start a
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the obvious ones that come to mind is like really like clear-cut communication and trust is like the building blocks, but then also just understanding each other, like knowing each other's strengths and where you play. Like we both complement each other in the business. Like we don't try and both compete for the same areas, and I think that's what we do well is we have a really good balance. I let you go and where you thrive, and you let me be where I thrive, and that's
agreed. It just knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses and being okay with those things, like not expecting the person to change for you. Like, you know, you often hear about people trying to change their partner or get them to be different, and it's just a stupid way of looking at it. Just find out how you work better together. What are the things that person does that you can't do, and vice versa, and the things that you both suck at, outsource it. Find someone else to do it for you.
Just transparency, like really just opening up to each other, and you know, if there is something that's a worry, or you know, just being really clear about it, like letting each other know what's going on. And
when you have that like gut feeling that something's not right with the other person, like not letting them get away with not telling you, like just keep asking them, like, hey, like when you're ready, I need to speak, like we need to talk about this, whatever this is that's going on with you right now. So that nothing is, you don't go to sleep with these things nagging on you and whatnot, and
don't make decisions when you're hungry.
Oh yeah. Don't do that ever. Just anything in life, don't be hungry. Look, that's as a partnership, that's definitely it. There are going to be like many partners out there who one side of the relationship is more inclined to do business than the other one, and that person shouldn't expect too much from the other one in terms of like living and breathing business. And then the other person has to let that person do business. Like if they want to work for 15 hours a day, let them do it. But also like find ways of like introducing life into the business. So, you know, a big thing for Claire and I is that, like, you know, for you guys who will see me, you know, tomorrow I've got 8 back-to-back meetings or whatever. Those 15 minutes in between meetings that I might have, I won't do any work. I'll just go hang out with Claire. You know, I take those moments to go get a coffee or spend some time with her or whatever. Like, don't let work be all consuming that you can't take those little moments to sort of hang out.
I think just going back to that balance, like Stan's the, you know, idealistic future visionary, you know, head in the clouds, whereas I'm a little bit more sort of realistic, feet on the ground, and we just keep each other in a good sort of like place. Like I don't put him down, and likewise, but we just keep each other sort of grounded in a balanced way. Whereas I think if we were both super, you know, head in the clouds, like shit, God knows where the business would be. Like,
you'd probably have to have 2 businesses.
Yeah.
Like I think we couldn't have 2 of me in the business.
No.
Nah, it wouldn't work.
Oh, not 2 of me either. Nothing would
get
just,
done.
Yeah, nothing would get done.
yeah. Like if you are exactly the same personality type, it's probably very rare anyway because people don't pair up that well. You know, opposites attract is a thing for a reason. But if you are and you have a great relationship, don't try to do it together. And if you are trying to do it together, make sure there's like a real clear division on what you do, so that you're not second guessing the other person. And then you have to have trust. And then that's just leadership, right? Like you can't, like what's that saying? I think it's like Steve Jobs or something, like there's no point hiring a bunch of smart people and telling them what to do. Like it's just what a stupid way to run a business. Same thing in relationships. Like if you're both really good at certain things, then let that person do their thing and trust that they're going to do it and don't get involved. Yeah.
Cool. That's all my questions, Krupa. Is that same with you?
I think that pretty much covered most.
Cool. Okay. Sweet.
Well done.
Yeah, well done.
That's good.
Cool. We got heaps there.
All right, cool. Well, I should probably jump on this call that I live. Sweet.
Thanks, guys.
All right, talk soon. Thank you.
Sweet.
Bye.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.